Welcome back to Dubs Talk Live. I am your host, Zena, Keita, joined by legendary Warriors insider Monte, Poole. Hey. He's too cool for school. He's just got the nice
Appreciate
little,
you.
Hey, Warriors take down the OKC Thunder. Very, very close win out in OKC, 141 to 139. We are going to talk about the fact that there was 139 points put up on the Warriors defense tonight. But
yes, first.
A win is a win. Warriors were able to close it out in clutch minutes. Warriors are now 4-0 on the road, 5-1 on the season, and 1-0 in the esteemed in-season tournament. There you go. Starting off the IST with a positive note. But let's talk about the fact that they closed this game out. Again, another shot with 0.2 seconds on the clock. I don't know what statistics there are around a team being able to do that back-to-back. But Clay putting up that shot, being the last final 2 points that the Warriors needed to be able to take over the Thunder and close out this game. Crazy finish.
Yeah. Well, when you have two guys like Clay to beat the Kings and then Steph to beat the Thunder, you're looking at guys who've been there and done that. You know, both of these guys have been in tons of postseason games and tons of high stakes regular season games, so they don't rattle. You know, and the core of this team is like that. Now what's happened in this game and what happened in Sacramento too is that they saw teams that were younger and quicker, and teams took it to them. And the Warriors didn't really counter that with great defense. I mean, the Kings shot well. The Thunder shot 60% from the field. I mean, it's tough to win a game like that, but when you're close, you stay close, you stay close. Sometimes you can rely on that experience.
I mean, this is why our fans were going crazy. That's why the Warriors fans were absolutely enthralled by what was happening. It was a close game. And of course, you want to keep it close, you want to keep it entertaining, but you also want to play some defense and be able to sit your starters and get some rest, right? Of course. But let's start with the one that did it, the one that closed out the game, Steph Curry. But before we get into his performance, I do want to talk about that last play. Because there's a lot of questions. You know, of course, everyone was celebrating Steph Curry getting that bucket, but there were a lot of questions as to the goaltending call that ended up being overturned. Right? So originally, there was a offensive goaltending call made against Draymond Green. He went up to just assure the bucket, you know, and it was said that he touched the rim, and then upon review, they noticed that Josh Giddey had also touched the net.
Before Draymond.
Before Draymond. So can you explain why that was not a goaltending?
Well, if Josh Giddey touches the rim, the backboard, the net, the shot's good.
There's the net touch.
The shot's good. I mean, and the fact that Draymond did it afterward doesn't really matter anymore. So the fact that it was a goaltend on Giddey that led to the basket. So, I mean, it really took a while to untangle it because you look at the replay multiple times and you see that Giddey's hand is there and Draymond's hand is there. Take all these angles and you look at it. But in the end, they saw that Josh Giddey grabbed the rim. Grabbed the net. And when you grab the net, that's a goaltend right there immediately.
He literally just grabbed it
just
in his
briefly,
hand.
But if you grab it for even a split second, that still counts. So for Josh Giddey, you know, I mean, that play really kind of cost him the game because if he hadn't touched the net at all, Draymond would have been offensive goaltending or offensive interference.
Well, you know, Steph Curry continued his reign, I would say, across the NBA. Ended up with 30 points, 9 of 15 shooting, 5 of 10 from 3. There was a stretch during the third quarter where he scored 12 straight points. So it was clear that he was kind of carrying the load, as you mentioned that he would. But there was a person that helped him is coming back from injury and coming back and really getting his conditioning, and that was Draymond Green. You saw Draymond Green doing so much out there on the court tonight.
Draymond early on, you know, he was trying to find his rhythm too. I mean, he missed a couple of layups, you know.
Little bunnies at the basket.
Right there, you know, and they weren't really defended. You know, they were self-defended. You know? So he missed a couple of layups, but over the course of the game, I think he was mad at himself too for that. You know, sometimes when you're mad at yourself, you do some things wrong or some things you know you shouldn't do on the court. It makes you find another level. Like, okay, you know what? I screwed that up. I need to do this, that, or the other. And I think you saw that. In the second half, Draymond was really good. I mean, he made some smart plays. Just the kind of stuff you expect to see from a veteran like him who tends to be one of the brighter guys on the court. So I think Draymond in the end, ended up doing a nice job to help this team win the game. 15 points, and 5 rebounds, 3 assists. So he got himself going.
I want to say that the most exciting thing I saw out of Draymond. Normal Draymond gets worked up, right, in trying to protect his teammates and trying to make sure. You saw in the fourth quarter he was looking to get that take foul called, with a clear path foul called for Klay Thompson, got worked up. Who was it that came and whispered in his ear and calmed him down?
The veteran.
The veteran, the adult in the room. Chris Paul comes up to him and talks to him on the free throw line, and you see him simmer down. That usually would have resulted in a costly technical foul.
Could have, yeah.
And it did not this time.
Yeah, the referee, the officials tonight, I thought were patient, and gave him enough rope, and so for Chris, he's one of those guys that he understands the gravity of the situation, and Draymond is in a situation where he can get a technical foul that will cost his team in a very close game on the road. And he's trying to avoid that. Yeah. And he was able to do that. And so I think in the end, for Draymond, it's like, okay, I'll just back the heck off, and let's see how this thing plays out. Now think about that, though. If the Thunder gets a technical foul, that can make a difference in a game like this.
Right.
Fortunately for them, it didn't turn out that way. Chris Paul was, in many ways, a savior in that regard.
It's really cool to see another perspective come into this mix because Klay and Steph have seen this for years, so they know their guy, right?
Yep.
Chris Paul is coming in as a new face, a new perspective, and saying, let me simmer this down really quickly. But Steph Curry is actually at the podium. We'll see what he had to say about this very narrow win against the Thunder.
I mean, it was kind of back and forth. It was a one-possession game either way, and everybody was in the bonus, and just plays here and there that were really indicative of just how wild the whole game was. Back and forth, a lot of scoring, a lot of playmaking, but a lot of competitiveness too. Like I think everybody's trying to get off to good starts that, during the year, the in-season tournament vibe and the court change and all that just added a little extra energy to it. So bled all the way down to the fourth quarter where players are going back and forth, and it was obviously entertaining. Could have gone either way. Thankfully went our way.
What were you thinking during the review? Were you thinking it was going to be called in your favor against you guys?
It was hard for me to see the jumbotron to see the replays, and I was kind of had my contacts in so I could see from a long way away the little monitor that they were looking at. I didn't see it in live because when I laid it up, I kind of fell on the baseline. I saw it go in. I saw Draymond was up there, and I couldn't tell if he touched the ball or not, or if Giddey grabbed the net or not. And I think they called it no good at first, reviewed it. And I know whichever way they call it, you have to have the evidence to go the other way. And that's where doubt crept in, because I couldn't tell what camera angles they had. But thankfully, they got it right, because if I'm not mistaken, he grazed the rim but didn't touch the ball. And good basket. I mean, considering we gave up 139 points, you're glad down the stretch we've gotten some necessary stops. And I think the biggest thing is we're just getting good shot attempts. Even, I think Klay's out at last possession, last game tonight. It was a tie game, so it really wasn't indicative of ball control, but the last 3 minutes, so we were just, making good plays, keeping the game simple, and that helps, maintain composure and not give the other team, extra possessions or kind of deflate you a little bit. So that helps you stay engaged and gives you a shot. You're playing a numbers game at that point down the stretch, and you just want to have as many good possessions as possible. We've done a pretty good job of that.
Now look at what the supporting cast was able to do here. 2 season highs within the bench right here. Jonathan Kuminga with 19 points, and Dario Saric, the unsung hero really of the bench that kept this game alive for the Warriors really with his unbelievable three-point shooting. And really it started the other night in his last game against the Kings, and he has just continued this prolific shooting from the top of the key.
Yeah, first 4 games, Dario's shot wasn't there.
Yeah.
You know, he was passing the ball really well. He was rebounding. He was doing all these lot of little things that were helping this team win games, but his shot wasn't very good. Last 2 games, like, okay, it's back. And you know, when the Warriors made him the #1 target on the free agent market after they signed Chris Paul, that was why. They saw him as a guy who's 6'9", 6'10", can stretch the floor, can shoot the 3, and therefore force other teams out. They saw him doing some of the kind of things they saw or they got from guys like Otto Porter Jr. a couple of years ago when they won the championship. You know, so I think for Dario, you know, he's a smart player. And Chris Paul was telling a story the other day about how when he knew the Warriors were interested, he said he got on the phone.
Yeah.
He got on the phone and called Dario. You know,
oh, it was urgent.
Yeah, because these guys were teammates in Phoenix.
Right.
So they know each other, they understand each other, and when you see them play together on the court, you can see they have a history. You know, kind of like Draymond, Steph, and Clay.
Yeah.
You watch these guys play together on the court, and you see that they feel each other, they kind of sense each other, and so it's a good rhythm to watch.
That familiarity between them is very apparent, for sure. And what you love about Saric is, again, he is someone that, when you talk about what the target was for the Warriors, being able to have a post player that looks at the basket, right, that wants to attack the basket, and you know Saric is going to pull.
Right.
He's going to put the shot up. And I appreciate that, too, that he didn't allow the first few games to impact his confidence in his shot, and now you're seeing that flourish. Now, thinking about another person whose game is starting to flourish, but it's a little bit of a roller coaster ride.
I think I know where we're going with this.
Okay, our friend Jonathan Kuminga. All right.
Yeah.
Now, while Jonathan Kuminga was a very, very important and impactful player, particularly in that third quarter when Steph Curry was holding it down by himself, his start wasn't so great.
Yeah, I mean, JK, the first half was forgettable. You know, you had a bunch of fouls and silly fouls, turnovers. You know,
turnovers,
like Jonathan, what are you doing? You know, and so, but he sat on the bench for a pretty good spell of time there after that. And when he came back in, you saw a sense of focus, a sense of determination. You know, and he played better. He scored 17 points in the second half. Yeah. And so when you have 14 from Saric in the first half and 17 from JK in the second half, that's 31 points from 2 bench guys. You take that every single game if you can get it.
And that's another person whose confidence, I'm very happy, isn't rattled by these kind of decisions, right? Because in the past, you would have definitely seen him sulk. And sulk to the bench and then not be able to be focused for the next time. But he has been incredibly ready whenever he sees those mistakes. It seems like he's coming back in with a very big directed focus on I've got to make up for what I was able to do.
I think he knew why he was coming out of the game in the first half. You know, he knew he wasn't. So when he came back in, you know, he was more settled. And just like, okay, he was just, this is what I'm going to do, and nobody's going to stop me when I need to do it. So not only did they score well, but they also were efficient. You know, both Dario and JK. So, you know, if you can get that from 2 guys off the bench, you know, 39 points, you'll take that every single time you can, because that's just the way the NBA team, if you're going to be great, you want bench production. And if Chris Paul can't get a bucket tonight, and he couldn't, he had 1 point. You need somebody else to pick up, and those 2 guys did. Third
game in a row that the Warriors bench outscores their opponent's bench this night, 57-37. So yes, we'll take that every time. Let's talk about Chris Paul, 13 assists. Amazing time as a point guard tonight. But we're going to keep talking. And no turnovers.
That's the thing.
So that statistic continues to roll. But we're talking about the turnovers on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. We're here on Dubs Talk Live. Hola, YouTube.
What up, what up?
At this point, we have to speak multiple languages because we have people from all around the world that follow us. Also, someone asked in the chat, do I have a crush on JK? No.
Why would they ask that?
That's crazy.
Why'd they ask that?
Guys, I literally played basketball. I appreciate good basketball, and I appreciate players developing and improving, as we all should.
Where'd that come from?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, I just had to address that. I do not have a crush on JK. Thank you. I love this comment. So far, 6 games in, we are showing why culture is very important. Because I think when you saw the Warriors celebrating tonight, culture was on display. They were so riled up. They were so happy. And say what you want, 2 points, whatever, it's a win. And those things count up, especially when you talk about IST.
No kidding. You know, I think when the other night Draymond said that last year our chemistry was really bad, and he used some more colorful language, and the Warriors don't really, I mean, Steve Kerr tonight said that, we don't want to talk about last year. Draymond did, but that's on him. So they don't want to get into last year because they really just want to wash it away. And it's pretty clear, though, that the chemistry of this year's team, and this goes back to summertime. When those guys were getting together and having dinner and playing just some pickup ball and stuff, they started getting things together then. By the time they got to training camp, these guys kind of had an idea of who they were and what they were trying to do. And so it all made for a much better and much smoother training camp. They all said it was a tough training camp, but the fact is they kind of knew what they were doing, and there was a sense of togetherness throughout the whole training camp, which last year wasn't the case.
It's kind of like you're with your new person and somebody keeps bringing up your ex. Let it go. Let it go.
Involved in the discussion. We can't make the decision. You know what I mean? We just trying to figure it out like everybody else. We're trying to figure out what to give that. That's why I don't know. They said it counted, so on to the next. I mean, honestly, the in-season tournament is great. I think it's going to be extremely competitive. But I tell you, whether that was an in-season tournament game or not, it was going to be the same way. You know what I mean? Like, you got 2 very competitive teams that, we on the first game of a road trip, and, we need wins, and I'm sure they're thinking the same thing. I'm a big believer in piling up wins. You know what I mean? We're still trying to figure out defenses and all this stuff, with a short training camp and the new bodies and people coming in and stuff like that. What was it? I forgot who we was playing against. That was the first time we did our press break offense. You know what I mean? So it's certain things that we still putting in and sort of figuring out. But we want to win games and figure that out at the same time.
Steve mentioned that you guys will take the next step when Wiggins could be there, really kind of insert himself in that athletic, Wiggins big late.
Yeah, and they doing great, but also me too. You know what I mean? Especially on the offensive end. But like that's what I said. Like it's crazy being in team sports for so long. Things could be a lot different if we were trying to figure this stuff out right now and we were losing. When you winning games, just everybody's spirit is better or whatnot. We know we still got a long way to go on the defensive end, execution, all of this, because the lineups are changing. And when you got a core group who's been together so long, they got certain things that they just, we know this will work. They know this will work, but incorporating myself, JK, and all that stuff, it takes time.
Chris Paul doing what he does best, dishing out assists and setting me up for what I want to talk about next. He just said we have a long way to go on the defensive end. 139 points. Mind you, 121 points were up on the Warriors, and there were 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Tonight was a factor of not being able to stop the drive. You can't say much about Lou Dort being able to put 6 of 6 threes up. But when you talk about going at the bodies of the Warriors and stopping them before they get too deep, that was a struggle for the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, the Thunder had 62 points in the paint. Ooh. So they were obviously attacking the paint. And if you get 62 points in the paint and 45 on three, you already got 107 right there. So when you look at the course of this game, and Draymond addressed this after the game too, saying that, our defense has a long way to go. He says, we missed assignments. There was poor communication, all these things, and it was visible. And that's how, and it was throughout the game, But when you go on the road and the team, a young team like the Thunder, gets some energy going early, they can sustain that.
Yeah.
And that's what happened in this game, is that the Thunder came out and scored 39 in the first quarter, and the Warriors were like, whoa. And the Warriors were not defending. They were on their heels. And so when you do that on your home court and you're a young team and you're playing a veteran team and your fans are now into it, you get confident.
Yep.
And the confidence breeds that, and the Warriors had to kind of catch up with that. And they didn't really catch up to it until the very end of the game.
Yeah.
That's when they finally put it away. So, they're going to see that. Teams, as this season goes on, as teams scout each other and the Warriors get scouted, teams are going to say, look, the Warriors, the veterans, are not that athletic.
Yeah.
They don't really finish around the rim. They're not that fast. They're not that quick. Let's push them early and see if they can keep up.
Yep.
And maybe if they do keep up, let's see if maybe at some point in the second half it wears on them. They're going to get that test a lot because you saw it tonight, you saw it against Sacramento. And so this is something they got to be ready for. And if you don't play early defense, good defense early, you set the team up to get confident, and next thing you know, you got a battle.
Especially when you have a team's defensive star be the offensive star,
yes.
right? Like
Lou
a Dort.
Yeah.
I also, if I was a coach and I was scouting the Warriors, go at them on the wings.
Yeah.
Right? The wings were definitely exposed tonight from a defensive perspective. But something else that was exposed tonight were the turnovers. Definitely cleaned up in the second half, but that first half was really, really bad.
Horrible.
What do you think was happening? Was it the court? Because maybe it's the court. I'm sorry.
Well, maybe.
It's a lot.
I mean, OKC had 19 turnovers, for the game.
Okay.
And the Warriors scored 30 points off the OKC turnovers.
Right, yeah.
So, but the Warriors, one of their whole priorities this year is to cut down on the turnovers.
Yeah.
And that's why they bring in a guy like Chris Paul. And Chris Paul did not contribute to those turnovers tonight. He had 0. 13 assists, no turnovers. But Steph had 3. JK had 3. And so you look at Draymond had 3. And so when you see that, the team wasn't really together.
Yeah.
They just did some things that are uncharacteristic of a veteran team. And again, I think some of these things will change as the season goes on, as these guys become more accustomed to playing with each other. There's going to be some issues. But tonight in the first half, it was just kind of sloppy at both ends.
Yeah.
At both ends.
Yeah.
And then in the second half, they kind of cleaned up on the offensive end, but the defense was still an issue.
Yeah, it just kept being like a lot of bobbles,
yes.
a lot of dribbling off of feet.
Yeah.
It was just,
yeah.
it seemed like they'd been on the road.
Yeah, it doesn't help when you got Draymond missing easy layups,
And the bunnies at the basket.
Yeah.
The bunnies at the basket.
Kevon missing a dunk, these are little things that happen. It's like, okay, these are things that should iron out. But if you're Draymond, you miss 2 layups like that when you're not even defended.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Folks, we sit here at the studio, we watch the game, and I can't tell you how much our floor was just like, oh, at every single little basket that was happening, being missed right at the basket. And like you said, some of them self-defended.
Yeah.
Right? That was the weird, they were just a little bit off, but they were able to clean it up in the second half. And of course, that paint statistic is big, though.
Yeah. Now, we don't mean to say that the Warriors are not playing good basketball, because there is some good basketball being played. The Warriors shot the ball pretty well, but the most important part of this team is going to carry them through the season, at least, is that they know how to win. They know how to win. The core guys know how to win, and they will find a way in most of these games, but they will be tested. They've won these last 2 tests in the last second of the game, literally. And this is not a game you want to play over the course of the season, because it will wear you down. People
underestimate the ability to know how to win. When we come back, we'll see what games that the Warriors know they have to win to continue this streak. We'll be back on Dubs Talk Live. Don't go anywhere. Also, all love to the person that said that about JK. It's all good. I just had to make sure I clear that up, because, can't have anybody wondering things. Yeah, so this is a really good point. Every single time that the Warriors people come against the Warriors, their A game is happening, right? And someone mismentioned, like the Thunder aren't going to shoot 60% the next time that they see the Warriors. But knowing that that's going to continuously happen, across the course of games, like how are the Warriors supposed to sustain that?
Yeah. I mean, the Thunder came out and they made a bunch of, I think they made like their first 6 or 7 shots.
Yeah.
And so when a team does that on its own court, it feeds on itself. Everybody thinks, okay, we can do this, we can do this. And a guy like Lou Dort, who's not known for shooting, he's a decent shooter. Yeah. But his game is mostly, like you said, on defense. When he can make 2 or 3 threes in a row, he's like, okay, I'm locked in. I'm on fire, you know. Right. I'm in a zone, you know. Next thing you know, the whole Thunder team is feeling like we're in a zone, and you got guys shooting, 8 of 12 and 7 of 9, and so it's just a tough way to try for the Warriors to try to win a game. They were able to do it again at the very, 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 very end. But if they had lost this game, they would know all the reasons why. And most of them would be on defense. And partly on tournaments, but mostly on defense.
Well, I'm very curious to see how they're able to continue to battle that, because if you need defense to keep sustaining yourself, you also need some youth. And the babies are in Santa Cruz.
running scrimmages and practices and stuff.
And I don't want to discount what Santa Cruz can do for a player, but Draymond said it tonight. They needed the energy.
Yeah, they're going to have to find a way to manufacture it.
Right. All right, let's look ahead to what the Warriors have to face in the next 2 weeks. The road trip continues. They'll go up to Cleveland and Detroit, get a little bit cold before they come down to, or really up again, to Denver.
Mile High City, baby.
Mile High City and Denver, a really big challenge, probably their very first big-time challenge since the Phoenix. And then they also will have another in 2 weeks. On the 14th, they'll have their second in-season tournament game. Yeah. So it will continue, but they'll at least be home for those games.
Yeah. If you're the Warriors, you've had a funky schedule for the first half of the season, basically. You know. They just had this 1-game homestand.
It was so weird.
And they've got a few more of those. Where they come home for 1 game and they go back on the road again. And when you do that 1 game at home is like a road game.
It is.
Because you're literally in town for 2 days. And that's what you do when you go to OKC, when you go to Cleveland, you go to Detroit. You're in town one day, you play the next day, and you leave that night.
Wow.
And so it's going to be tough, but the back-to-back coming up, Cleveland and Detroit, two young teams.
Yeah.
And I would think that if those 2 teams get started early and able to build some momentum early, Warriors will be in a fight again for the 3rd and 4th consecutive time.
And don't get confused by Cleveland's their record. They've got 2-4, but Jared Allen and Darius Garland were not playing, but they're back.
Yes,
they are playing again. So there will be a big challenge against the Warriors on the road, and that will continue. And then they're going to go to Detroit, do the same thing. Cade Cunningham,
Cade's been good.
They got something to prove.
Yeah,
got something to prove. Well, the Warriors are going to continue to try and entertain you all, just as we are on Dubs Talk Live. Zena, Keita, Monte, Poole, thank you so much for joining us again. Enjoy your weekends, folks. We'll be back on Sunday. Lego. Okay, so I do want to talk about this youth aspect.
Yes.
And I got to stop calling them the babies, but they're the babies. They're the babies.
They're older babies than the last babies, though.
Yeah, that's true.
These guys were coming in.
They've been in college, right?
Stuff,
exactly. You're right. You're absolutely right. But I thought it was really interesting how adamant Draymond was about having not the babies, the younger.
He wants them back on
the rookies and the younger. Yeah. He said 1,000%. We need them. They're a big part of what we do. And I've never heard any player really be that loud and, direct about guys wanting two-way players and younger players to just be with the team.
Yeah. Talking about guys who are really not in the rotation.
Yeah, right.
They won't play in certain games when they're blowout games like they had the other night in New Orleans. But in tight games, they won't play. Yeah. And so that's why they're going back to Santa Cruz, because they will get consistent time on the court.
Yeah.
Excuse me, whether it's in scrimmages or in practices or whatever, which they wouldn't get because the Warriors, as a veteran team, they won't scrimmage very much over the course of this season. There'll be very few scrimmages, you know. And so there will be days when the veterans will be almost like optional, you know? And so the young guys need a certain consistency to get it going.
Yep.
And, you know, it doesn't help them when they're sitting around watching the other guys. They don't develop that way.
Yep.
So I get it. But Draymond is saying, yeah, I want to have them around because they give us a juice, get a little bit of a jolt.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's going to happen in the next day or two. But, you know, right now they're in Santa Cruz, and it's possible, I guess, they could rejoin the team at some point on the road trip. They're on the road for another 5 days. So 6 days, I guess you go all the way to Wednesday. So yeah, it's possible. But if you're Steve Kerr, you're the coaching staff, you're the front office, you're like, you know, let's get these guys some run.
For sure.
Yeah, get them some run.
Because you can't underestimate how many reps matter.
Yes.
How much reps matter. And, you know, there's this whole kind of overhaul that has happened at the Warriors. Seth Cooper, the former head coach of G League, has gotten a promotion alongside the GM, David Fatoki, to become the kind of two-headed, leadership across the development of these players. And they're doing a lot of work to make sure that these players, and you look at what happened with Lester Quinones. I mean, he killed the G League last year. Absolutely. He had I don't know how many 40-point games he had.
He was solid.
He was just dropping
really
them. But he was also getting better as a point guard and as a guard in general. And so you're seeing that there is this great program that they've got going on in Santa Cruz, and there is a focus for Trace Jackson-Davis and Brandon Podziemski and Lester to continue their growth.
Yeah, I mean, they will be back and forth to Santa Cruz over the course of this season. But I just think that Steve's, their thought was, you know, get them some. I mean, Santa Cruz right now is really kind of in a training camp situation.
Right, yeah.
And so that way it'll be more intense. And they could use a little bit of that. And so that's better than for the next few days than to have them sitting around watching and, you know, flying with the team and not playing.
Well, we also hope that you all are supporting Santa Cruz. I know their season's going to start pretty soon as well. It's exciting down at Kaiser Permanente Arena. It's a very small arena, but a lot of fun, packed with fans, and the energy is high. So if you get a chance to go down to Santa Cruz, definitely do it. But anywho, we appreciate you hanging out with us. YouTube fam, always appreciate y'all showing up late on a Friday night. Y'all hanging out with us. It's cool. It's great. But we have to close. So we'll see you guys on Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Enjoy the weekend.